Welcome to the 531, where we debate a top 5 list on a particular subject, further discuss it down to a top 3, and then eventually settle on a top 1. Now after this beat, we'll get to today's subject.
Alright everybody, it's the Working Fans Podcast. It's the man they call Dave. And I'm here with AJ Strangebrew, and we're at it again. The 531. We're running the show. Joe, you fucked up. So AJ, we're talking about the top 5 HBK matches of all time. Before we get started, I do want to say something. Last week we did the top 5 Bret Hart matches, and Randy Osgood, I misquoted him on one. Now, as you remember, Bret versus Austin won the Survivor Series, the WrestleMania 13 match, all right? And he had Bret and Austin written down. But he actually had Bret and Austin from Survivor Series written down. So, it didn't make a difference, but I just thought it should be duly noted. So,
first of all, the fact that you misquoted my number one fan.
Oh, yes.
Annoyed.
And he wanted to know what your favorite match was.
We're going to talk about that. And if you want that information, Randy, you got to tune in for the live show.
The live show, which will probably air the day before this actually airs. So we'll...
Yeah, so Randy, if you're seeing this, you already know the answer.
Yes. All right, so...
And I'll give you a hint. It's not somebody's mother.
So...
Or maybe it is.
So, I don't know, maybe kick things off with Randy. Who do you got there for your list here?
I've got Randy's list, and I will not misquote him.
My man.
We've got Shawn versus Razor from WrestleMania 10, the ladder match.
Yes.
Yes. We also have Shawn versus Triple H, unsanctioned 2002 SummerSlam. We've got versus The Undertaker, 97 Hell in a Cell. Diesel going back to 1996, 24 years ago, in your house.
Better
Not
friends?
Your house particularly, yes. Better friends, or better friends, better enemies, something like that. Yes.
Right? He was good with that. Not everybody had that one. So.
And then, one of my favorites, Jericho, 2008, the No Mercy ladder match.
Yes, those were two good ones he had. Yeah,
I actually think that ladder match is better than Razor and Shawn, but I might be in the minority for that one.
You know, I didn't, spoiler, I didn't list either one on my list, but I do agree with you. I do think that one is better.
I just think you have two better actual wrestlers. It's nothing against Scott Hall.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the work that Jericho was able to do at that time compared to now is just a different level.
Jericho's best run, and Shawn was still at it, yeah. And that Better Friends, Better Enemies match, I believe that's the one where they ripped off Mad Dog Vachon's leg, too.
It is.
Yes. So,
yeah.
Thanks for the memories. I'll give a list here. I got Jesse from New Hampshire this week. And he's got the Rockers versus the Hart Foundation from the October 30th, 1990 Saturday night's main event. I forgot to check which one that is. That might be where the Rockers... I don't think that's the one where they won the tag belts because I don't think that ever make air.
That wasn't televised.
So he's got some deep cuts here. HBK versus Randy Savage, UK Rampage 92. I don't think I'm ever going to have that, so good on him.
That was one of the first times that you actually saw what Shawn Michaels as a singles could really do. Of course, he did. He was in there with one of the all-time greats with Randy Savage, who was really able to put together a hell of a match, I'm sure.
Yeah, this one might be a minority one, but I think you'll like this one. It's Shawn versus Double J at In Your House 2.
That's definitely a good one.
Triple H versus HBK. Armageddon 02. I believe this was I don't want to know if they called it 3 Stages of Hell match. I think they started off with a regular match, and then it might go to a ladder or a cage. But it was, those were the 3 matches. And then he has, which actually technically would be an extra one, but we're just going to have them tied, both Mania matches with Taker.
Wow.
So that's 25 and 26.
Wow, you really brought it on that one.
That Taker's matches are going to be a theme here, I believe.
Yeah, well, a lot of people on my list went back and forth between the two. Some like the retirement match, some like the 25.
Yeah. I'm like Hell in a Cell, I found out.
Exactly. I've got one half of the Brothers of Destruction combo. I've got Jake St. John here. We've got Taker and Hell in a Cell.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Taker at Mania. I'm not sure which Mania he means in that one. Knowing Jake, he might just be covering all of Taker versus Sean's matches.
I actually had a peek at his list, so continue reading. I got an idea here.
We do have the Taker retirement match,
which is the following Mania. So,
that could be the way that he was going with.
Yes.
And
so I'm gonna give it both Mania matches credit for that one.
Yes. So unlike the others who couldn't decide between the two, Jake just picked both.
Yeah, he did.
Yes. Here's an interesting one. He picked the Shawn Michaels Bret Hart Screwjob match, Montreal Screwjob match. Not really sure that's Shawn's best match. Might be his best submission match. Bret tapped quickly.
Joe put that down last week, I think, for historical significance. Maybe Jake was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe just because he knew the danger that Shawn was actually in going into a match and having to pull something like that. You know what I mean?
That might have been
it. And then we've got Ric Flair retirement match.
All right.
Which is not one that shows up on much. You talk about historical significance. I got to believe that that's... And they did tell an amazing story in there. Obviously, it's not Ric Flair's greatest physical match of all time, but you talked about an emotional match. Incredible.
So Jake he did have Mania 25 and 26. And Jesse had Mania 25 as his number 5. He had him tied for Mania 26. Yeah. He said both Manias. Scott has HBK versus Taker, both Manias, and Hell in a Cell. So Scott is telling me that he obviously considers Undertaker's greatest rivalry. So that's his top 3 right there. Yeah. And then Razor Ramon at Mania 10 in the ladder match. And then number 5, he also had Flair in the Mania match position. So
wow.
I can't wait to see what you got next, man, because I have a feeling this Undertaker HBK thing is going to make some list here.
Well, I'm not going to keep the brothers together. I'm going to try and keep them separated. So I'm going to throw a little Mike Flynn in between.
All right.
We've got Taker from Mania 25.
Yep.
He's got Triple H and Chris Benoit.
Oh, yeah.
In the 3-way dance from WrestleMania 20. Razor at WrestleMania 10, the ladder match.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt Angle from WrestleMania 21.
Awesome match.
And then Shawn versus Taker at Bad Blood.
Which is the Hell in a Cell match.
Yes.
I did some research on it. So it's funny how they worded some of this stuff. Some of the people worded it differently, but yeah.
Well, I think what's happened over time is because we now have the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view.
Right.
That people have a tendency of forgetting that there was no Hell in a Cell pay-per-view back then. That it actually was a separate pay-per-view. Right. And that's
sidebar, by the way. One thing I don't like WWE does is these I don't want to call them seasonal, but yeah, these like theme pay-per-views. Like I want to have a Hell in a Cell because we call for a Hell in a Cell. Like we just watched Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens had a great interaction the other night, and I'm like, this could be a good feud. I'm liking this, and we're immediately jumping to a tables, ladders, and chairs match because it's December, and I'm just not a fan of that.
Believe it or not, that's how I actually feel about the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. This is we're taping this the day after NXT's Hell in the Cell.
Or War Games, you mean?
Sorry, War Games.
But yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
So we're doing this after NXT's War Games, and to me, War Games is something that should be one thing on a match, on a card, not a whole specialty where you have multiple versions of it.
Agreed.
If the women want to go to war, it should be over a dispute that they're having. It shouldn't be the theme for a pay-per-view.
I agree. All right, I'm going to go Joe's brother next. Matt sent us a list. He's got Taker at Hell in a Cell. He's got the Mania 10 ladder match. He's got the return of HBK at SummerSlam versus Triple H, which was 2002.
Yep.
Somebody on that list already. And then he's got Mania 26, Taker versus HBK's career. So,
yeah. All good matches once again. The thing that we're going to run into with Shawn is similar to what we ran into Bret, and maybe even more so, was that his matches, there's not really a lot of bad Shawn matches. There's not really anything that people pick and put on their list, basically, is going to be pretty solid.
What I'm running into, too, is almost like it's not quite diluted, but much like Flair Steamboat, we're seeing a lot of HBK Taker matches that are like different ones that are coming in here.
Yeah,
Although
exactly.
it's not getting as diluted because everybody is saying, a lot of people are saying, I take both.
Yeah, some people just aren't willing to choose.
No.
All right, so I've got the other brother now.
Yes.
Which I think is actually what his parents call him. Zach St. John.
Yes.
We've got Taker from Hell in a Cell, Bad Blood, if you will.
Yep.
That's Taker 25.
Yep.
Jericho at Mania. Razor from SummerSlam 95, not the ladder match, but the actual SummerSlam match, which is a good call because I believe it's actually better than the ladder match when they.
Oh, yeah.
And then Angle at Vengeance 05.
Oh, okay. So not even the Mania match. I forgot about the Vengeance one. Yeah.
Yeah, so good picks by the other brother.
Yes. Speaking of the other brother, I got Joe. Producer Joe. Who sent in HBK versus Razor. Ooh, didn't really specify. I'm going to give it to the Mania 10 ladder match, though. HBK versus Flair. That is Mania 25. It looks like I have written down here. HBK versus... Oh, hold on a second. I want to make sure. I don't want to mess up Joe here. Let's...
Yeah, don't pull a Randy Oscar, Dave.
Yeah. Michaels versus... Okay, wait a minute. So, all right. He's got Michaels versus Ramon, WrestleMania 10. And then we have HBK versus Flair, 24. Yep. Michaels versus Taker, Hell in a Cell. And then HBK versus Brett, 97. That's the ladder. That's the Survivor Series screw job. And then he's got Michaels versus Taker, WrestleMania 26. All right.
He's really sticking by that screw job.
He believes in it.
Yes. That's incredible.
Is this your list?
It's time for the whole effing show.
All right.
All right, so first of all, one of my favorite matches from Shawn Michaels, and I know that we can go with historical significance, we can go with just great catch-as-catch-can matches. One of my favorite matches is actually Shawn Michaels versus Marty Jannetty for the Intercontinental title. Just because I grew up on the Midnight Rockers and then the Rockers, so to see them finally break up and actually go for the Intercontinental title and to see Marty Jannetty actually pull off the win there, I think it was actually a hell of a match and a good job putting over Marty by Shawn.
And Marty's went on to great things and arguably has had a more successful life and career.
Yeah, so, and all because of Shawn putting him over there.
Or something happened. I don't know.
Something like that. I am going to go with Shawn versus Jericho next from the No Mercy.
Yep.
That is one of my favorite matches. I think that both of them just brought it. Shawn versus Taker, Hell in a Cell, like everybody else in 97 from the Bad Blood pay-per-view. To me, that is, I know it's where Shawn hurts his back also. So, unfortunately, it's going to be the root of some of the tail end.
Actually, technically, they ended up having a coffin match where he hurt his back.
The coffin match.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Because that backdrop.
Yeah, the backdrop on the coffin, which is not on my list.
No. All right. Didn't make my list either.
Yeah, I am going to go with, I like the one before the retirement match. I actually think that WrestleMania 25 is actually the better of the two.
Okay.
And unlike other people who couldn't choose between the two, I'm actually going to choose WrestleMania 25 and keep the other one off the list.
All right.
Flair versus Michaels, the retirement match, is on my list because, like we talked about before, historical significance and sadness. And that was 4, right?
I believe so.
And my number 5 one is actually Shawn versus Jericho at WrestleMania.
Okay. You might have swayed some decision-making at the end here a little bit with one of your votes. We'll get to that. I'm going to read my 5 first. All right, just because I wanted it on the list, HBK versus Mankind, Mind Games in Your House. Foley says this is one of his better matches in his career.
It also showed what Mick Foley could do, to be honest with you.
Yes. There was a hot Philadelphia crowd. Really good show. Triple H at SummerSlam 2002. I did this for the emotion. Shawn coming back after 4 years. We never thought he was going to wrestle again. Not only does he come back, he pulls off the friggin' MVP performance. I believe Arn Anderson told him before he goes out there, hey, man, do the best you can. You got this. It's not quite like riding a bicycle, but you're going to do this. He comes to the back, and Iron goes, Well, I guess for you, it's like riding a bicycle. Never mind.
Shawn Michaels coming back like that, I think, unfortunately for Steve Austin, is what made all of us continue for years to ask Steve Austin, are you sure you're not coming back?
Actually, I'll skip to the end. I got a couple more with big, but I actually, just because from personal preference, I put down Austin at WrestleMania 14 only because we were there live.
We were there live. Yeah.
The atmosphere of that crowd is something I'm never going to forget as far as a wrestling show we went to.
It was incredible. It was.
And out of the Taker matches, I put Hell in a Cell in there. I decided not to go to Mania because the first ever Hell in a Cell doesn't get any better than that. They had the most awesome match, and it was also the debut of Kane. Too much good stuff going on in there.
It's also what made people, to this day, still want to see Hell in a Cell.
Agreed.
What put it on the map, so...
Agreed. And then Kurt Angle at Mania 21. So that was my list. Dynamite match there. Now, when I did some of the totals for this, it was apparent that the top 3 vote getters were all Shawn versus The Undertaker. So rather than do that, I am going to say Hell in a Cell, which got the majority of the votes. We'll get an automatic buy. We'll do that.
Yeah, unfortunately, the WrestleMania matches took away from each other.
They did. I'm going to say we include one of them. So there'll be 2 there, just because how important it was to people. And we'll go with 25. You did sway that vote because it was actually tied.
I thought you were talking about Marty Jannetty.
No, that's not making that list at all. And then we'll argue this third spot, or maybe we'll agree. HBK and Razor WrestleMania 10 ladder match. So I think we're going to agree on this. Or HBK versus Triple H SummerSlam 2002. I'm voting for Triple H HBK SummerSlam 2002.
I am too. I know a lot of people like the ladder match for sentimental reasons. Mm-hmm. But I think that if you look back at it, it doesn't hold up as much as the SummerSlam 02.
And it was this big return match, the emotion of it all. In fact, now that we got our final 3, what's kind of interesting is I'm going to say first one to go. I don't know if I'm because we don't have to. I can kick off one of these Taker matches. And I don't know. I'm kind of interested. What do you go with? Do you want to? Who do you want to? Maybe you want to get rid of Triple H.
I prefer keeping the Hell in the Cell match.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. Like I said, that obviously was on my list, so I think it's one of his best matches. The year before the retirement.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, that Hell in the Cell match was a milestone and something that has lasted. I mean, it's 23 years later, and we're still talking about it like it was yesterday. Whereas, how often do we talk about the Shawn retirement matches?
Agreed. And this was the year before, which set up the great story, obviously. But yeah, I have to agree. At the end of the day, that Hell in a Cell was something special. I was going to go, if you really prefer the maybe straight up wrestling matches, maybe we do most times. However, this is special because it was the first of its kind, and these guys set the tone of it.
It was, and as you know, I'm usually a wrestling purist, and I usually prefer the straight up wrestling matches. However, they combined a fight, wrestling, and everything that you love about a good Hell in the Cell, and they put it together in the first one. How many times do you see a first match where it's put together this well?
You don't. I want to ask you this before we declare the winner here, because I think I know where we're going to go. Are these not counting Bret Hart? Look, HBK and Bret Hart, a lot of personal things going, but I don't consider HBK and Bret's chemistry. I thought it was good, but I thought they had better matches with other people.
I think all you really have to think about to figure out how well they might have worked together was the Iron Man match is one hell of a match between Bret and Shawn, and it made nobody's list.
Right, exactly. I think at the end of the day, HBK's greatest rivalries are Taker and Triple H.
And one of the reasons why is because then Shawn Michaels. Shawn and Flair are probably the 2 best at getting thrown around the ring and then coming back and being able to really make it believable.
So, 2 questions. There's the 5-3-1. We're going to declare a winner on the greatest match of Shawn's career. But a sidebar, who's his greatest rival, and is it different?
I think his greatest rival, actually, and you could go Triple H on it. You really could.
Yeah.
But I think his greatest rival has to be, to me, The Undertaker.
Okay. And then we're going to go...
I mean, all you have to do is actually look at the amount of matches that are on these lists.
Yeah.
And how many of them are taking up with The Undertaker. Like we said before, as much as he didn't behind the scenes get along with Bret Hart, none of his matches with Bret Hart made the list other than the screw job.
Right, which was a couple people.
Which obviously was not even a good match.
No, it was fine. It wasn't, but you're right. It's more remembered for the ending, you know? Yeah, I got to go then. I think we're going to go with Hell in a Cell. The people wanted it. It made everybody's list pretty much. And
that's not to take anything away from Shawn's comeback match. That comeback match, like Iron said, proved that Shawn could take off whatever time he wanted. I have no doubt Shawn could come back now and still have a great match.
Yeah, I believe that.
He's one of the few people that I believe could take the amount of time off that he took and freaking...
And you know what's funny? We might get some... Go ahead.
Look at Saudi Arabia. Look what he did in Saudi
Right.
Arabia.
Some people are going to give us some heat for that. Some people are going to give it and say, oh, that match wasn't any good, blah, blah. Yes, and there was some mistakes, and Shawn... Honestly, Shawn was the best part of that match, folks. And he was dealing with what he could deal with at that time. His partner got injured, unfortunately. You know, Kane, everybody got injured around him. He was doing what he could.
Exactly. That's he was the only thing that actually held that match even remotely together.
And he was the least active out of all of them.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah. So he's a hell of a performer. For my money, as much as I'm a Bret Hart fan, and I like some of Bret's matches a little bit, I think they're grittier. However, when it comes to consistency, when it comes to the best all-around performer all the time, Flair's up there, but I just kind of go with HBK.
All you need to know is that Ric Flair considers Shawn Michaels the greatest worker of all time.
Yeah.
When somebody who everybody considers to be the greatest worker of all time considers the other person to be the greatest worker of all time, that's telling you something.
That's all you need to know. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Working Fans Podcast. This is Dave. This is AJ. We're out.
Guys, thank you for listening to the 531 here on YouTube this week. If you like what you hear, you can always find us on Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and on the Apple Podcast where you can subscribe and also give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate you listening. We want your feedback, 531, and if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, we also want you to let us know. And let us know what your 531 would be. Come up with a top 5 and let us know, and we'll tell you why you're wrong. And in order for us to do that, please contact us on Twitter. We're at Fans Working. Facebook page, Working Fans Wrestling Pod. Email workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. It's very important that you actually contact us on these platforms because we want this to be your interactive place to talk wrestling.